Hello and welcome to Edyou Pulse, your weekly roundup of events, developments, and conversations in the education sector. I'm Caroline Samuel, and on this week's episode, we talk about bullying. Bullying is a serious issue, and if left unaddressed, it can have lasting and harmful effects on a child's well being and development. This week, we discuss the ministry's ongoing anti bullying consultations, the rollout of moral and civic education as a subject, and we learn more about bullying and how to address it. All that on this episode of Edyou Pulse. Stay with us. The Ministry of Education is currently facilitating a series of weekly anti bullying consultations across the country to gather feedback and recommendations from stakeholders at the community level. During the sessions, community members raise concerns regarding incidents of bullying within schools and offer practical recommendations for strengthening preventative measures and support systems. The consultations provide a collaborative platform for parents, teachers, and students to contribute directly to the development of national strategies aimed at creating safer learning environments. The ministry recently conducted an anti bullying consultation with the residents and students of Yarrow Cabra.
Today, we have the common trend of online bullying, where it is done through messaging. We have videos. Our schools have been creating WhatsApp groups so that information can be disseminated, and that group is turned into a tool where bullying takes place. And studies have shown that children who are bullied, that hurt is with them after they leave school. So parents, colleagues, there is something that we must be honest about. Our children were not born bullies. They were socialized by us.
So the Ministry of Education has realized that bullying is a problem in schools. And so the ministry and the government has taken the initiative that we have to address it. We need to start doing something to address all of these problems. And I think that it's really important because we all have a part to play in making our schools safer. Really, it's for us at the Ministry of Education to understand how bullying impacts you, what bullying looks like in your school and your communities, and how we can help to address it. What actions do you think would be useful to address bullying and violence in your schools and communities?
I want to know what system the Ministry of Education is having in place for these Chinese supermarkets selling children vape and alcohol. In terms of community, how do we prevent bullying as a community? How do we stop bullying on social media? How do we prevent bullying in classrooms?
The reporting system gives you an independent mechanism to reach out to the ministry in a direct and most confidential way. If you want to report the case anonymously, you can do so as well. Well, like I said too, we are partnering with other ministries on this. So the Ministry of Home Affairs, for example, will have a part to play in helping with the enforcement of laws as it relates to selling alcohol and vapes to minors. So part of that is an enforcement aspect. We've recognized it and we're working together with the Ministry of Home Affairs to address that.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to say that we can stand up for the child that is being bullied.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, what I believe in society today is many students lack the self-awareness about this issue. This is something that has affected many of us students, not only in school. My suggestion is that parents should start teaching these issues at a young age and to also focus on helping the parents that are struggling with the children that are bullying other students. I'm a single parent of 7 children, and I try my best to send my children to school. And day before yesterday, my son come home and say, "Mom, I was bullied at school." So I always tell him, don't go to school and fight. You don't have a daddy, you only have a mommy. And if anything wrong with you, what am I going to do? So I just want parents to talk to their children at home, to be disciplined your children at home so that when they come out on the road, they must know not to discipline other people's children because you don't know what the parents are going through with their kids. For a suggestion for bullying in school, I think as teachers present in school, we need to be more vigilant. That's one. Two, we have situations whereby students will ask to go to the washroom frequently, and when we catch ourselves, we realize that bullying is taking place in the washroom. We do not want to be in the washroom so that we can be invading the children's privacy. However, sometimes bullying takes place in the washroom. What we would like to have from the Ministry of Education, if they can have system in place where they can have like person who will conduct like several monitoring for the washroom. Sometimes we will ask the sweeper cleaner, but we have to be mindful when we are dealing with children in the washroom and invading their privacy, right? However, I would like to suggest that we have, like the parent said, more security put in place, as well as giving us as teachers the privilege so we can handle some of these cases right there in the school.
If you are being bullied or you are aware of incidents of bullying, then you can make a report on the anti-bullying reporting system at education.gov.gy/ABRS. Here's how it works.
Hi there. My name is Rihanna, and I'm here to let you know that since the Ministry of Education launched our anti-bullying campaign last November, our anti-bullying reporting system received a total of 35 complaints and counting. While the majority of those have already been resolved, we still have 6 under investigation. But we also recognize that bullying continues to be a problem in many of our lives. So I'm here to encourage you to reach out to us so that we can help you. And the anti-bullying reporting system is the way to do so. Here's how it works. You can start by visiting us at education.gov.gy/ABRS or Anti-Bullying Reporting System. Once you've reached our homepage, it's really super easy to tell us what's happening. Just click on Let's Talk About It, and we can take it from there. Now you can start telling us what happened. You can input your name, email address, and phone number. But in my case, I wish to keep my identity a secret, so I'll click the box next to that. I have been a victim of bullying by the use of mean words, so I'll click on that. I went to Covent Garden Secondary School, so I'll input that. I was bullied when I was in grade 11, so I'll specify that. And for context, because I'm a little old to be in school, let's just pretend that that happened today. Now, you can go further to specify whether or not you've told a teacher or head teacher about this already. If you have, you click yes, I've already told someone at school. If not, you say no, this is the first time I'm telling someone. Now, this is the part where you can get very specific with us. You can tell us everything, including the name of the person who has been mean or violent to you, what exactly they did, where they did it, when it happened, what class or grade the bully is in, and who might have seen it happen. Remember, the more details you give us, the better we can help you. So once you've clicked Send My Report, that report goes to everybody who's connected to you. That includes your teacher, your head teacher, the education officials of your region, the chief education officer right here at the Ministry of Education, and even the minister herself, because we're all in this together. We're all here to help you. So let us.
Now, to further support its endeavor to eradicate violence from schools and cultivate respectful, responsible members of society, the Ministry of Education is introducing moral and civic education at the nursery, primary, and secondary levels across Guyana. This values-based subject is designed to strengthen character and develop national pride, guiding how we treat each other and how we serve as citizens.
Education isn't just about reading, writing, and passing exams. It's about shaping who we are, how we treat others, and how we show up as citizens of Guyana. That's why the Ministry of Education has introduced moral and civic education to the nursery, primary, and secondary curricula. My name is Renella Harris, Education Officer within the Ministry's Distance Education Unit, and this is the latest from the CEO's desk. Moral and civic education is a values-based subject designed to help students develop character, responsibility, empathy, and civic pride. It focuses on how children and young people understand themselves and others, learn right from wrong, and respect rules, fairness, and diversity, as well as participate positively in their schools, communities, and country. This subject forms part of Guyana's national curriculum framework and sets standards and benchmarks for learning from nursery right through to grade 9. Moral and civic education is for every learner. From nursery years 1 and 2, children begin learning how to recognize different emotions, how to take turns and be kind to people and animals, and how to develop pride in themselves, their families, and their country. As the children move into primary, they learn about rights and responsibilities, fairness, cooperation, and how their behavior affects others. By grades 7 to 9, learners are developing ethical reasoning, leadership skills, and an understanding of democracy, governance, and global citizenship. This ensures a smooth, age-appropriate progression that supports both personal growth and academic development. Because education must prepare students for life, not just the classroom, moral and civic education helps to address issues like bullying, exclusion, and conflict by encouraging positive behavior and responsible decision-making and strengthening national pride and social harmony. It supports students in becoming confident, ethical, and engaged citizens. The curriculum is built around 5 key strands: self-awareness, citizenship, and identity, rights and responsibilities of citizens, cooperation and responsibility, democratic values and governance, and global citizenship and cooperation. Let's get excited about moral and civic education, because this subject reflects the kind of society we want to build. A society where children feel safe and heard, young people understand their rights and responsibilities, students are equipped to lead with integrity and empathy, and schools actively shape citizens, not just scholars. Moral and civic education is an investment in our children, our communities, and our future as a nation. It isn't just a subject. It's a foundation for character, citizenship, and national pride. And it starts now, from nursery to grade 9, for every learner across Guyana.
Bullying is something that many of us think we understand, but the reality is often far more complex and much more serious than we realize. Bullying leaves deep emotional scars that affect a child's confidence, mental health, and sense of safety long after the incident itself. But why do some children bully others? And what can parents and teachers do to protect and support young people? To help us answer these questions is Ms. Rabina Zaman, Senior Schools Welfare Officer, who works closely with the students, parents, and educators to safeguard our children's well-being and create supportive school environments. Joining us in studio is Senior Schools Welfare Officer Ms. Rabina Zaman. Ms. Rabina, welcome to Edyou Pulse.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Now, our conversation is all about bullying, given the Ministry of Education's push against bullying and violence in schools. And also, the 2nd of March is Teen Mental Health Day. And the focus for this year is This Is My Place, focusing on belonging and creating safe spaces for our teenagers. So, first question, that might seem like a very simple one. What is bullying?
Bullying is a deliberate and intentional action of one person on another to cause hurt, be it physical hurt or emotional hurt. When it's intentional and it's deliberate, it's there to reduce the status of the victim.
Mm-hmm. So how is bullying different from, let's say, a regular conflict between two students? How is bullying different from that?
Bullying is different because a conflict is that there is a dispute that one party feels aggrieved and needs justice, so to speak. In bullying, there is a power struggle where one party feel the need to be dominant over another, and it's intentional and it's deliberate.
Okay, so why do some students become bullies?
All right, I like to say that children who become bullied, they are hurt little people. Because there is a psychological term that says that hurt people hurt people. Children, all of us are good human beings. Behaviors are learned. Children are exposed to certain behavior that alters their childhood experience. So bullying or they becoming bullied is a learned behavior. And so they display that onto another student because or primarily because of power struggle.
Now, you mentioned bullying being a power struggle.
Yeah.
And often when we think about bullying, usually the first image that comes to mind is somebody being violent, somebody being physically violent.
Yeah.
But how else? What are some of the other forms that bullying can take?
All right. Let us say for the perpetrator, those who bully or met out violence upon another, those are hurt people. Those are children or students having low self-esteem, not feeling great about themselves, not seeing their worth. And it doesn't matter where we go, we are looking for love, acceptance, and validation. If we to look at the learners who are categorized as bullies, we will find that they're low academic achievers. We're finding that they are children who are victim of circumstance, that they would have exposed to some form of child abuse. We will find that there is neglect, parental neglect. So all these negative events change who they are. And so they're looking for acceptance. And if that means that they got to be bad or they got to exert negative behavior to gain that attention, well, so be it.
Now, for the benefit of our teachers,
Yeah.
what are some of the signs that someone is a bully? We'll focus on the victims later on, but what are some of the signs that that someone is a perpetrator, the word that we're using?
Yes. You will find first, you'll find rude and rebelliousness, defiant behavior. They don't want to follow rules. You find that they have lack of interest in their academic work. You'll find that they're late, non-responsive. You will find that overall they lack the interest or the zeal for an education. And because of that, they will engage and occupy themselves differently.
Are there perhaps any more subtle signs? Because on the one hand, there are those students who are very outright with it. But then there might be some students who you might not even recognize, or at first glance, you might not consider them to be a bully because of how subtle is the word that we're using.
Yes.
They are. So what are some of the other pointers that a teacher can look out for, especially as it relates to that power struggle that you mentioned earlier?
All right. So each teacher develop a relationship with learners. They identify their learners. They get to understand their learners as unique individuals. And when teachers are very observant people, so when you observe that something is different, something is abnormal, that this learner is not being him or herself, you start to investigate, because we can find that some persons who are bullies were once victim of circumstance. So teachers can identify the abnormal traits, and that can be withdrawal. That can also be passive aggressive. All right. So there are traits that teachers can identify that are not usual or what we will classify as being abnormal.
Now, for the victims now, what are some of the short-term, but also some of the long-term effects of bullying?
That's an excellent question. The short-term effects, we have anxiety and depression because they're distressed. All right. It reduces them to a stage of anxiety. If they're bullied, they have anticipated fear. If they are being repeatedly bullied, then they fall into withdrawal, depression, and all of that. Bullying impacts learners in allowing them to stop believing in themselves, not seeing their worth. And when they're not seeing their worth, it takes away from their self-esteem. They're having low self-esteem. Victims having low self-esteem, they're falling short from their academic achievement, low grades. There is not the zeal for learning, for achieving. They can become very angry people also, because we're finding anger, a negative emotion, in the perpetrator, the bullies, and the victim. So it alters the children.
Now, what are some of the ways that teachers and parents can help to create a bully-free environment?
First, let us take the teachers' part. So, encourage an environment of fairness in school. That we be fair, that we listen to our learners, we dispense justice, that oftentimes children, when they complain, they're not feeling satisfied with some of the efforts being put or being made to address the issues. So we have to create a fair environment, an environment that is harmonious, an environment that affords learning. And for the parents, we need to become our children's friend, to be there. We're having a whole lot of issues of parental neglect and abandonment. It's a big issue. Children are suffering from abandonment for various reasons, but despite what's going on in a parent life, they still need to be there for their child or children, to show love, to show affection, to lend a listening ear, to afford the child an environment to express his or herself. Because we're finding children are being criticized, they're being compared, they're being denounced, their efforts are not being acknowledged or celebrated. So we need to be more integrally involved in our children's welfare and well-being, that we need to be there for them as their friends, as their supporters, as their confidants.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, at the school support services unit, what are some of the services available to students who are victims of bullying?
All right, so we have psychosocial services that we're offering to both perpetrators and victims. All right, there are counselors in every secondary school except for Region 8. Ministry is working diligently to have counselors in each secondary school. So for most of the schools, we're having counselors. In each region, we're having welfare officers. We're also networking with sister agencies to provide psychosocial support, mental health, all right? We're working with UNICEF and other organizations to create a supporting network to help alleviate any stress or issues that affect the functioning of our learners.
Great. As we wind down our conversation here, the theme for this year's observance of Teen Mental Health Day is "This is my place." Ms. Rubino, what do you have to say to the students who might be watching, whether they are unfortunately bullies or whether they are victims of bullying? What do you have to say to them to ensure that they understand how to be mindful and how to be empathetic with each other?
Okay. Well, the Student Support Unit, we're acknowledging World Teen Mental Health Day. In every secondary school, there will be an observance. For individual teenagers, I like to say, start with yourself. Start with the man or the woman in the mirror. That when you look into the mirror, the person looking back at you, you start to love that person. You start to believe in yourself. You start to talk to yourself, telling that I'm a person of worth. I'm unique, I'm important, I can achieve all things. And when you start to believe, and one thing for us to believe, we got to keep talking to ourselves. And once we start to believe in ourselves, it will change our mindset. And when we change our mindset, it will help us to navigate through this tender stage of adolescence. And then we will tell ourselves that it doesn't matter what happened to me. What is important is what I choose for myself. So we start from a place of believing in ourselves, believing that we're people of worth and we can achieve great things.
Great. Those are some really inspiring words for us to end our conversation on. Ms. Rubino, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And that's all for this week's episode of Edyou Pulse. We learned about the ministry's ongoing anti-bullying consultations, the rollout of moral and civic education as a subject, and we discussed bullying and how to address it. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.